Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. Protests continue to dominate Bangladesh. After deposing Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and installing an interim government, protesters are now going after those in power and considered loyal to the previous regime. The targets were Chief Justice of Bangladesh Supreme Court and Governor of Bangladesh Bank and others. Amidst the unrest, focus is also turning to reports of violence against Hindus and other minorities in the restive state. Meanwhile, India is keeping strict vigil at the borders. Even as the new interim government in Bangladesh, led by Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus, tries to bring the law and order situation under control, protests continue in Dhaka and elsewhere. The public anger now appears directed towards those in positions of power and seen as remnants of the previous Sheikh Hasina regime. The latest to go is Chief Justice of Bangladesh Supreme Court. Bangladesh Bank Governor Abdul Rauf Talukdar also resigned, but his resignation was not accepted.
This judiciary went to the end of the line of a human rights breach, yet it didn't take any cases from the appellate division. It didn't run any investigation nor deliver any justice. We want all of those involved with it, including the Chief Justice, to resign.
The resignation of Chief Justice came after students warned him of dire consequences if he did not step down. Students, advocates and some other people gathered on the Supreme Court premises and gave the Chief Justice and other judges an ultimatum to resign by 1 p.m. Before the Chief Justice, it was Bangladesh Bank Governor Abdul Rauf Talukdar who was forced to step down. Meanwhile, former Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's son said the deposed leader wants to return home.
All of those stories that you're hearing, they're just rumors. My mother has not reached out to any country. She has not applied for asylum anywhere. Right now, she wants to go back to Bangladesh, whether it is to be in politics or to retire.
Sheikh Hasina has been sheltering in India since Monday following the anti-government uprising. Sheikh Hasina's son, Sajid Wazed, also called the interim Bangladesh government led by Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus completely unconstitutional. A Bangladeshi student leader who was instrumental in overthrowing Sheikh Hasina and is now part of an interim government said she must face trial when she returns home. Earlier on Friday, hundreds of Hindu demonstrators took to the streets of capital Dhaka, protesting against attacks on their properties in different corners of the country after fall of Sheikh Hasina's regime last week. The United Nations also condemned the recent attacks on Hindu minorities in Bangladesh. U.S. Congressman Shri Thanedar wrote to U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken on persecutions of Hindus in Bangladesh. He writes, "When Congress returns from recess, we must hold hearings to learn more about the failures to protect the Hindus and other minority groups in Bangladesh, as well as how to prevent these horrific actions from taking place again in the future." Meanwhile, India is closely monitoring the developments in Bangladesh. The 2,000-kilometer border between West Bengal and Bangladesh is vulnerable due to political unrest in Dhaka, prompting the Border Security Force of India to be on high alert. Indian state of Odisha has also beefed up surveillance along its coastline. Bureau Report, DD India. The Commonwealth Journalists Association, in a letter to Dr. Muhammad Yunus, the head of the interim government of Bangladesh, strongly urged him to take swift action to ensure physical safety and secure working environment for journalists and media outlets in Bangladesh, who in recent days have experienced serious physical attacks and acts of intimidation. The letter further states that a free media, which is protected by law against acts of violence and intimidation, is essential for healthy democracy. And to talk about the situation in Bangladesh, joining me is a special guest, Lieutenant General Syed Atta Hasnain is joining us now. Good evening and welcome, sir, to the program. So how do you assess the evolving situation in Bangladesh? There is an interim government at place, but the protesters seem to be calling the shots still. The resignation of the Chief Justice, a case in point.
It is quite obvious that the actions which have been initiated by the students in the form of a revolution are still ongoing. There is an interim government which has come into place supposedly for 90 days or so. But the students, in their wrath, because of the heavy casualty figures in particular, because of the angst that they carry with them against certain personalities in the previous government, against the police forces, will perhaps not rest content until most of these people, or at least all of them, have resigned or left the country. So we can expect that this chaos, which we are getting a lot of assurances from the new government that things are going to be back in order very soon. But when an event like this takes place, obviously the whole country goes into a churn. And it's very unlikely that it will immediately return. There are lots of lumpen elements. There is a very large number of criminals who have escaped from jails because the police force is defunct at the moment. And because of this, the law and order problem is going to be a challenge for quite some time. So this is something that we have to keep waiting and watching. There's nothing very much which can be done from outside. It is the government, the interim government, and perhaps assisted by the Bangladesh army, which can resolve this.
And sir, given the disturbing reports of attacks on Hindus and other minorities, what are the real risks of this student-led protest and upheaval being hijacked by extremist elements in the society?
See, we are all aware that Bangladesh is a very, very complex society. Bangladesh's polity itself is very complex. My visits to Bangladesh have always revealed to me that at the street level, there is a tremendous amount of turbulence which is caused by a number of radicals. Right from 1971 onwards, the radical element has always opposed India, particularly India's friendship with the Bangladesh government and the people of Bangladesh. So as a result of this, the moment a thing like this happens, an event like this happens, the first target is anything related to India. This happened with the Indira Gandhi Cultural Center, it happened with the various temples, the Hindu temples, and obviously a number of Hindu citizens who were targeted. The interim government is giving a lot of assurance, no doubt. They are giving assurance because they also understand that the international community is concerned, India is concerned. After all, at the end of the day, after a revolution, food has to be put down on the table for everyone, and if nothing is done in a hurry, the economy of Bangladesh is going to go into an eclipse. So as a result, the government is responsible and is making a lot of gestures towards this, but without a police force in place, with a lot of volunteers only on the ground, it may be a challenge at this time. I would expect that the Bangladesh army should be stepping in to ensure this kind of a security.
A little more on that, sir. When the Bangladesh interim government assures India of restoring law and order and protecting the minorities and other sections of the population, what is the part and efficacy of Muhammad Yunus's government at the moment when the society is going through this churning and the very arms and agencies of the government, as you mentioned, the police force, for example, is in disarray as we speak?
If you really look at it right from the top, even Mr. Yunus himself has been a very, very able banker, and that too at the grassroots level, Grameen Bank.
Yes.
But besides that, his own experience in governance of a country has been very limited. And he's been out of touch for fairly long from there. And the number of people who have been included in the government are ex-secretaries to the government, etc., who have been out of power for fairly long. So it takes a long time before they can really get effective, get hold of their own offices, their own duties and tasks. So I foresee that although lots and lots of assurances are coming, I'm not sure that this kind of a situation can be restored so easily and in a very early time frame. Of course, India has to wait and watch. There's not much that can be done from here directly. What we need to ensure also is not to be provocative. Because in times such as this, there is a tremendous, of course, issuing out concerns for the minorities there, for the Hindu population, etc., is very well in order. After all, who else will do it? But at the same time, we have to hold our horses in terms of provocation. And that is something because at the moment, tempers are running wild, lots of emotions and sentiments, and rumors are abounding everywhere. But that in a situation such as that, I think it's best to continue holding our horses.
And finally, General Hasnan, it's not just India. The United Nations, members of the U.S. Congress have also pushed for safety of the minority. Situation like this, in a mature manner, collective international pressure could make a difference, you think?
Absolutely. This is the time, I think. In fact, India can perhaps take the lead there to a great extent, where it can actually sensitize many governments, international governments, who may not be so fully aware or whose national interests don't extend into the region of Bangladesh as such. But their word in the international community makes a huge difference. Their presence at the United Nations, in the Security Council itself, makes a huge difference. So I think India can take up that initiative to make sure that they sensitize the Indian diplomats, or maybe even some retired diplomats, veteran diplomats, could be sent out to sensitize these countries at a time such as this.
On that note, Lieutenant General Sayyid Hasnan, thank you very much, sir, for joining us in the program and sharing your